and are happy that so many citizens of Berthoud are wanting to be informed about the candidates this year. Thank you again. Please turn off your cell phones, just a little bit. And please don't use any audio or video recording equipment. We will be videoing the event, and we will be posting it on the Surveyor's Facebook page, so everyone will be able to watch it. If you'd like to send any people that you know that are interested to the Berthoud Weekly Surveyor on Facebook, they'll be able to watch it also. The Berthoud Weekly Surveyor and the Berthoud Area Chamber of Commerce are the co-sponsors of the event. And really appreciate the Chamber and the Chamber Board electing to get involved in this forum this year. I think it's an important election for the town, and happy to have them involved with us. Dan, would you just stand up for a moment? Dan Mulvihill is the director of the Chamber and has helped a lot with this event, so we really appreciate it. We'd like you to be considerate and respectful of all the candidates. After all, they are volunteering for this position with the town, and it requires a lot of work and a lot of effort on their part. So if you can hold your applause until the end of the event and be respectful, we'd appreciate it very much. Another forum will be held on March 17th at this location. That's next Monday night at 7 o'clock. That forum will be a Q&A on the two initiatives on the ballot, number 241 and 242. We have 8 candidates, as you can see, running for town board. There are only 3 seats available. The elections will be held on April 1st. Voting will take place either by absentee ballot or at the Berthoud Town Hall, 328 Massachusetts Avenue, and I'm pretty sure it's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The candidates are seated at the table in the order that they appear on the ballot, with Mr. Hyman being number 1 on the ballot. I'd like to thank BLT Productions and Blaine and Robert Tolles for the sound system and the video. BLT Productions is opening their new office in Berthoud at 545 5th Street, which is on the corner of 5th and Mountain, and they will be doing video production and oh gosh, all kinds of stuff. We have a position over here that says candidate questions. If any of you have a question that you'd like to ask the candidates, if we have time later, we will be opening it up to the public to ask questions. So if you'll just fill those cards out with your question, your name and your address, and give that to me, we will be doing that later. I think that's everything. Our moderator for the event is John Hall. John is the sports editor for the Berthoud Weekly Surveyor. And our timekeeper is Deanne Mulvihill. And I think we're ready to go. Thank you, everyone. John?
Thank you, Becky. Can everybody hear okay? Is that good volume? First of all, candidates, thank you very much, not only for being here, but willing to be part of the service. I'd like to also thank the audience. We appreciate you, the support, and you being here tonight. This is what democracy is all about. Becky touched on civility, and I think it's very, very important that tonight that the candidates, as you're dealing with each other, are showing civility. Same thing with the audience. And I want to read 2 quotes from you. This was from a Midwest governor. I'm not going to say which state. I'm not going to lean either direction from a political standpoint. But he said, "We cannot do democracy without a heavy dose of civility." Every day we're trying to teach our children to be civil. So let's hope tonight that we can be civil from the candidate standpoint and be civil as from the standpoint of the audience. And then lastly, I will say who said this, and it was George Washington. "Every action done in company ought to be done with some sign of respect for those that are present." So we ask tonight to show as much respect as possible. Becky went into the, I'm going to read what the rules are tonight, but I'm going to read this first. Candidates may not attack or engage in argumentative behavior with other candidates. In order to ensure that the audience has the most time to hear from the candidates running to represent them, a format has been established with time and terms for this forum. All candidates have agreed in advance to the following rules. 1. Opening statements by each candidate. They have 3 minutes for these statements. The candidate may include why they're running for office. 2, there will be 3 questions asked of each candidate, time permitting. The order of response will be determined by a drawing for each question. We will have someone draw a name out of here. Whoever's name comes up, they will be the first person to answer that question, and then we will go from our left to our right in order with the candidates. Once one person's name's been picked, that person's name will be pulled out here so that they wouldn't have the disadvantage of being asked to ask a question again for the first time. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each of these questions. 3, if the forum lasts less than 2 hours, written questions from the audience will be allowed. So we can maximize our time. Sir, would you grab a name out of there?
Dick Shepard. How are you?
That's okay, thank you. Dick, you're going to be asked the first question. And then it'll go to Mr. Buckridge and down to Mr. Richmond, etc. Remember, you have 2 minutes. You have a timer. I'm sorry, 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes. And then that's where open stage. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Write down ready questions.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Dick, your 3 minutes will start right now for your opening segment. Your opening statement.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank you to the Chamber and the Surveyor for hosting this forum, and thank you to John Hall for moderating. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dick Shepard. As a current trustee for the town of Berthoud, I'm proud to have served as an elected official over these last 6 years. I moved to Colorado in 1978, and I moved to Berthoud, Colorado in 1982. So I've been a Berthoud resident for 34 years. In all the time I've been here, I've owned 3 homes in town, and I'm planning on staying. My daughter, Stephanie, is 24, and I still call her my little girl with a broke down car as of tonight. She attended Berthoud Elementary, Turner, and graduated from Berthoud High School, which has made me a Berthoud parent for 12 years in the school system. As I've mentioned, I served on the board since 2008. My commitment to this community includes working with the Library Board, the Utility Advisory Committee, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the recent work in the Citizens Advisory. Along with the work on the boards and committee, I volunteered at annual events, including Berthoud Days, Oktoberfest, Christmas in Berthoud, and of course playing Santa Claus at our local schools, restaurants, and in the parade. Please do not tell the little kids who's Santa Claus. I'm very proud of this town, and I'm happy to be here. I love Berthoud. We're lucky enough to live in this gem of a town on the Front Range. I'm running for re-election because Berthoud is at a crossroads that will impact our future for decades. My platform is economic development because everything we want to do in this town comes back to economic development. In order to cure our fiscal woes, we need these things: housing, jobs, and utilizing our great resources, including our well-educated workforce, our open space, and of course our water and access to higher education institutions. Looking at my campaign for re-election, I'm looking out at this audience and I see seniors, young families, parents with young children trying to pay their bills every month, getting kids to school, seeing kids off to college. I see parents who hope their kids come back, like my daughter Stephanie. I'm just like you. I want to represent your needs to make sure we're building a stronger future together. I'm a middle-class single father who works full-time and who loves living in Berthoud. I pay the same high fees and I drive on the same damaged roads. And I'm anxiously awaiting a new rec center, walking trails, and more towards free hill shops. The decisions we make on who we vote into office impacts everyone in this community. I ask for your support to help Berthoud remain a viable community and stay autonomous and succeed. Berthoud is at a crossroads, and your vote will impact our future for decades. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. I am going to ask when you hear that beat to please stop your commentary.
What beat?
A lot of people.
Sorry.
Okay, hang on. I know, it's okay. I practiced this beforehand too, now it's not working.
Smartphone?
I can do it.
I got it. Okay, got it. I'm ready.
Mr. Buckridge, your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Chris Buckridge, and I've called Berthoud home since 1999. And there is one main reason that I am running for trustee, and she's in the audience right now, and that's my daughter. I am a single dad. I'm raising my 10-year-old girl here with my mom, who's also been a Berthoud resident since 2005. And with 3 generations of my family living in Berthoud, I am more than invested in seeing Berthoud prosper for all of us. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Syracuse, New York, 1962, but both of my parents grew up in a small town in western Nebraska. And it was there that I first saw the obvious benefits of supporting your community. All my extended family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, supported their community in many different ways, and I saw early on how much of an impact that can have. My family moved to Franktown, Colorado in 1975, where I lived while I attended high school at Douglas County High School. I then went to Colorado State University and earned my bachelor's degree in computer science. And my work career started in Wichita, Kansas, working for Boeing in 1985, when I worked for 14 years. Then in 1999, my career path brought me back home. I got a job at the IBM site in Boulder, where I still work today. Most of my hobbies are related to the outdoors. I love those mountains, and especially in the wintertime, my daughter and I enjoy snowshoeing and skiing whenever we get a chance. It's a little bit about me. Now let's talk about our town. Everyone's aware our town is facing challenges. Fiscal health, economic development, planning, and all the other problems that every municipality our size faces. Now, a good deal of the work that I've done in my career has been related to project management. And in those projects I was assigned, I was often given assignments with conflicting requirements and no budgets, but I found that if you ask the right questions, keep people informed, and look at the problem from every angle, it's not often you can't come to a compromise that gives everyone what they need. That's one of the skills I want to use to help work. Am I confident that we can prosper? Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because I see all of you here. Everyone who's willing to get involved, not just you, but all these other trustees are willing to give their time and expertise to help our town. With everyone in this town getting involved, I am very confident that we're going to overcome all of our challenges, and I look forward to being a part of that. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Buckridge. And just let me know when you're queued up.
It has to go down. All right.
3 up and 2 down.
Okay. Ready.
Mr. Bridgman.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll move the mic. Typically, I don't need a mic. I'm loud enough, but for the recording. Thank you all for coming this evening. My name is Jason Bridgman. I've only been a resident in Berthoud for about 18 months. You'll see a common theme in my introduction and also in the questioning tonight that I'm a newbie all around. I'm a young pup. I'm 37 years old. I've got a very young family. My lovely wife Aubrey and my 9-year-old son Henry and 5-year-old son Eli are in the back. And truth be told, as Chris, the reason I'm running is them. I want them to grow up into a small community, a community that won't necessarily remain small forever, but will keep those same small town values, and I want them to come back here. If they leave, they want to come back and they want to get a house, they want to raise a family, and they want to enjoy the same life that they had as a child. For me, that's my largest vested interest in this. So a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm 37 years old. I've lived in Colorado my whole life. I'm a native. 34 of those 37 years have been spent here in Larimer County, either in Fort Collins or Loveland. I had a small trip away to Missouri for college for 1 year. And I spent a year in Dallas with my job opening up electronics stores. But other than that, I'm Northern Colorado born and raised, so I understand some of the issues that we're facing. I understand the people that live here in the Front Range. Most recently moved from a dairy farm east of Loveland, where we lived for 9 years, to the big city life here in Berthoud. It's great to have a store near my house. I can actually walk to places now. I don't just live with 350 head of cattle. So that's been a big bonus for myself and my family. We also live directly across the street from Ivy Stockwell, where both of my children currently go. And for us, that's been the best thing about Berthoud right now, is the school system for our kids. It's hands and feet above what we've experienced. And we definitely enjoy how much the town gets involved with things like Berthoud Bash and things of the sort. So it's great to see a town that people are willing to volunteer and also willing to take the time and the money to make things better for their town. And I think the 8 people running for board helps to show that. I think we had 10 petitions taken out. So there's a large number of people that are willing to volunteer and willing to sacrifice their time for this town. So that definitely means a lot. On top of that, as far as my qualifications go, for me, like Chris, I haven't been doing it quite as long, but I'm also in project management and master scheduling, where my job is primarily scheduling projects and making sure that they come in at or below budget. If they don't, I have to answer very serious questions. So dealing with the town and dealing with the populace is not a problem for me. In fact, the mob actually scares me less than some of the people I deal with on a daily basis. But realize that the reason I'm also running is the fact that the best thing about government is that the people feel that their government isn't doing a good job. They have a great opportunity to come in and vote for change. And it gives someone else the opportunity to go in there. They may not make the right decisions, they may end up being worse, but you do have that opportunity to voice your opinion and get someone else into an office. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bridgman. Pretty good at that.
Get better.
Ms. Baker, your 3 minutes starts now.
I'm Jennifer Baker, and first off, I'd like to thank all of you for coming. I'm very happy with such a large turnout. I also like to thank the surveyor and the farmers for hosting the event. My story is pretty simple, actually. I'm a hometown girl. I grew up in Berthoud. The only reason I wasn't born here is simply because Berthoud doesn't have a hospital. I went to all Berthoud schools, and I graduated from Berthoud High School in the 12-year club. I've been a part of the working community since I was a teenager, which I'm sure many of you recognize me from. I lived in Berthoud when I went to CSU and later graduated with landscape architecture and natural resource management. And now I'm happy to say I live here as an active community member and a working professional. This is a wonderful community to live in and be a part of. I've been involved with the community for nearly 10 years in active volunteer committees and various endeavors, which you also probably recognize me from. It's just Parks and Open Space, Design Advisory Committee for Magnet Park, and most recently the Comprehensive Plan Update in 2013. There's a number of reasons why I'm running. Some of the most pressing are really that I love this community, and I very much feel a part of it. I love the people here, I love the character of this town, and I'm concerned for its future. As many of the other candidates mentioned, we're at a crossroads. The decisions we make now will affect us for a long time coming. I'm concerned for the aging demographic. Growing up here, I know what it is to grow up here, everybody leaves, and people say this aging demographic. And I'm concerned for what that means for us in the future. I'm also concerned for the economy of the town. We have a number of services that are no longer available. Police, tax, these services enhance our lives as citizens. And I'm concerned we're no longer able to offer them. And I'm also, one of my major concerns is for the place along the Front Range corridor. We're within 50 miles of 3 major universities. Growth all around us, and I feel like that's one of the things we're going to have to proactively address as a community and open and collaborative process for us to be able to sustain ourselves in the future and be proactive in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Henning, your 3 minutes starts now.
Hi, I hope everybody can hear me. Thank you all for coming. My name is Mike Henning. I've moved to Colorado in 1999 and actually I've lived inside and outside of Berthoud since that time, and I've lived in the town for 8.5 years. I have 3 grown adult children who actually went through all of the Berthoud schools, Ivy, Stockwell, Turner Middle School, and the high school, and have succeeded very well, and now are attending 3 universities in the state of Colorado. I have decided to run for trustee because I think that I'm at a point in time in my life where I can bring some of my experience in my business relationships that I have, or the business experience that I have, and help at least influence the board or change the board to serve the town in a better fashion. The 3 things that I'm currently kind of focusing on are transparency, accountability, and growth. I think everyone does understand that the economic stability of the town is not so great, and I believe that growth, a very well managed growth, not just rooftops, not just one particular type of growth, is required in order to make this town more viable and be able to offer the public services and public safety services that we currently count on. I think that I was a Boy Scout leader during my time here in Berthoud. I was a Scout leader for the Berthoud Troop 6 Scouts for 4+ years. And I share a lot of comments from other people here. My kids grew up in this town. I love this town. I actually moved out of town after the growth cap was passed because I couldn't find a house that suited us. Couldn't pull a permit to build one. I built one in Johnstown. And 7 years later, I came back to Berthoud because we never had the community and the spirit that Berthoud has. So I hope that just I can bring great positive influence to the town board and to the town to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henning. Mr. Hyman, Superintendent Personnel.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. I do really want to commend the other people who are sitting up here willing to put their personal lives on the line and step up and work to improve the town. I remember in 2010, we had 3 candidates for 3 seats. So we canceled the election, saved the money, and appointed Dick and 2 other people, Dick and Tom, to be on the board because that's how little interest there was in being a leader in the town of Berthoud. So it's great to see that. It's great to see the turnout here tonight. And I think that bodes well for Berthoud. I think people are paying attention. So a little background on me. I'm a Colorado native. I graduated from CU with a business degree in 1977. I became a carpenter and a general contractor, which is what I do now. I have a construction company in Boulder. I'm a husband, father. My 2 sons also grew up here in Berthoud. That's why we moved here, to raise our kids in this environment. I have a wonderful supportive wife who's in the audience tonight, who is letting me, or has given me her blessing to try this again, run again for town board. Anyway, I moved to Berthoud because I scouted every community from Lakewood, where I grew up, to Fort Collins, and I found Berthoud to have the best land use plan and the best growth planning that I had seen in any town in the Front Range. It was a small town. It hadn't lost its character. There was working agriculture around the town, and I moved here because of that. And ever since I've been here, I have worked 100%. 14 out of the 18 years, 19 years I've lived here, I've either been on the planning commission or the town board. I've spent 10 years on the town board, 2 years as mayor pro tem in the early 2000s. And every time I've been on the town board, I've worked for pro-growth, smart growth policies. Set the quality standards, let the market determine the rate of growth. I worked to defeat the growth cap with other people in 1995, the first year I moved here. In 99, it passed. In 2003, it had done serious damage to the town in terms of 5 really nice subdivisions had moved on because we had 25 building permits a year that were eligible for all the developments in town. 2003, I banded together with Tom Patterson, our ex-mayor, to start Citizens for a Better Berthoud. And we ran the campaign that overturned the growth cap after 3 failed elections to try and overturn it. So I'm running out of time. I have worked constantly for growth and economic development in Berthoud. I helped start the Berthoud Economic Advisory Committee in 2007, and that's what I will do if I'm elected. I'm going to work for economic development, I'm going to work for better decision making, and I'm going to work to pave our streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hyman. Mr. Jones, 3 minutes now.
My name is Thomas Jones. I actually grew up here in Berthoud. My father was a businessman at Jones Plumbing and Excavating. And I've taken it over actually, and so I've gone from being in the trenches to book work to back in the trenches. And, yeah, Berthoud's got a long ways to go. I've seen it come a long ways. When I was a kid, all the streets in Berthoud were dirt. And I want to see them to stay pavement. And that's one of the things that I'd like to see and push for while on the town. And this takes funds. Most towns do get their extra revenues from growth. I believe that a slow but steady, smart, good growth is the way to go. I also am open to creative ways to find financing. I believe that there are a lot of things out there that Berthoud could bring in, given the right connections, the right help from the citizens. This could be anything from recreational items to agricultural items that would bring in funding along with the housing and commercial aspects. I do have strong ties here. I saw my kids and my grandkids actually go to school here, and it's been neat to see them stick around and be part of the town for the most part. They're not living here yet, but very close to my heart. I do ask for your vote, and I feel that we can work together to get some great things done.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Foley, the 3 minutes starts now.
All right, who in here doesn't love Berthoud? I love Berthoud. A couple of things I really love about Berthoud is the positive environment in which I've been able to raise and educate my kids. The general good nature of the citizens. And when I say citizens, I also mean county citizens, town citizens. We're all Berthoud. We're all the 80513. And it's looking at that. That's why I'm here. I've got 2 boys, school age, right now in the high school. I have 2 local businesses that I've started. One of them that's getting ready to come online. If you didn't see the big, pink, massive bus out there. Hoping that's going to be fun. I've coached youth sports. My family has volunteered in this community for the arts. Those of you that see the murals on the side of the Arts Center, they've done that. We've done that together. I volunteer over 18 years of fire and EMS. I'm also one of 40 certified fire protection specialists in the state. My professional career is in risk management and safety consulting. I have worked with a number of municipalities, big and small, that have seen various issues. And right now we're talking only about a couple of them. There's a lot more out there. And what I bring to the table is the ability to see how others have done that, rely on that, consult, bring that education into this town, and be the leader that this town needs. My reason for running, one of the primary reasons, was losing our police force. That was unacceptable. And I'm committed to getting it back. That's the primary reason why I'm running. Along with bringing in my years of military experience, my experience in the fire service, my experience teaching. I've taught EMTs for over 9 years in Boulder County. I know what it's going to take. So I just thank you for your community involvement, for everybody being here. Thank you for getting out and voting. It is your right. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, lady. Now we're going to move on to the questions. Thank you, sir. Okay, the first question, and then what we'll do is it will go from that person from our left to right and around. Okay. First question, Jason Bridgman, you're going to be answering that.
That was my lucky night.
Okay, the question is, you have 2 minutes for this answer.
Got it.
What are the 3 most pressing issues facing Berthoud today?
Well, great thing is it'll be a recap of, I think, of everybody's introduction speeches. Let's begin at the beginning. I think probably our top issue right now is our police department. We no longer have a local police department. For me, it's been a little bit concerning because I see the community service officers at my kids' school every single morning. I know that they know the kids and the kids know them, and it helps to build a trust in this community that helps us stop crime before it begins and helps us carry over for years to come. Now I just worry about having to build that trust up again. Second, I think everybody's talking about it as well, as growth. Following the GMA as it currently stands, or do we need to go out and get some more land? Do we need to stimulate growth in other ways? I tend to lean on the free market initiative as well, whereas if we set the bounds and follow our plans, as Jeff said, you let the market dictate what happens as far as growth goes. You can't force growth that's not there. So with the free market, you will get what people want. It also helps us to go with the third issue, which is providing a unified front as a town. Right now, in the news, it's not all good news about Berthoud. Every time you hear about Berthoud, see it on the news, read about it on Twitter, any sort of social network, you're seeing a divided front. You're seeing a town divided by the growth management initiative. You're seeing a town divided by a police department. All the scandals. It's never about what a great job Berthoud does, about Berthoud Days, about Berthoud Bash, and how we raise all this money for our local schools every single year and keep the money here in Berthoud. It's always the bad things. So for us, it's providing a unified front. And as a team, it's our job to get everybody on the same page. Now, the town board of trustees will not always go with what the mass says, because majority isn't always right, but majority rules, especially when it comes to voting. So it's our job to provide a unified front as a town, to let everybody else know in the Front Range and also people moving in what Berthoud plans to do from now on moving forward so they can have that stability and feel comfortable coming to Berthoud not only as a resident, but as a business owner as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bridgman. Ms. Baker, you have 2 minutes to answer the same question. Do you want to repeat it?
That's okay.
Okay, fine.
3 of the most pressing issues that I see facing Berthoud right now is growth, primarily. You see, do we grow, do we not grow, and how do we go about it? How do we plan that growth in the future to stay an economically sustainable community, keep a high livability of place? How do we keep that, how do we stay the community, keep the characteristics of the community that we so love as we grow? Secondly, I would say it's public services, such as, as mentioned before, the police force, ads, streets and disrepair. How do we get the tax revenue to reinstate those services? And they're very important to us as a community. How do we get the tax revenue to keep those going? And third, I would say public awareness and clarity of information. I've been through all my volunteer committees. I've been to a slew of meetings. some of which have been very smooth and they've gone, and it's great to see, you know, public participation. I love to see people come. But a lot of them, I hear a lot of misinformation, and it really concerns me because I feel that community input and collaborative decisions, you know, is huge proponent of the democratic process. So to see that working and work together as a community to make decisions for the community at large are a huge component to staying where we are. And public awareness is one of the major factors in that.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Henning, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. I think the 3 biggest things that actually are facing Berthoud right now is the economic stability of the town and what we do about that. That's number 1. Number 2, I think, is also related to the town's communications and what people see, not only in town, in the county, but also outside of town. We really do come across as a town very divided. And I think that in order for us to really put our best foot forward, we need to change that perception, and we need to agree on how we're going to make this town be better. And I think the 3rd reason is public services again. And that goes along with the police department, roads, rec center, all of the things that we want to keep in Berthoud and why we want to live in a town like Berthoud, I think are at risk until we start to address them. Fundamentally, I think the root of a lot of that is growth. And you know, as I said, that was the number 1. And I don't think it's a very easy problem to solve. If it was, we wouldn't be talking about it. I think growth needs to come in many different ways. It needs to come in ways of rooftops, needs to come in ways of commercial and retail, and it also needs to come in terms of businesses and employers. It was mentioned that we live within 50 miles of 3 great universities, and we have an educated workforce. We have a committed townspeople. That's why you're all here. And I think we just really need to improve our message and become united as a town, as an 80513, to start solving some of these problems.
Thank you, Mr. Henning. Mr. Hyman, you have 2 minutes.
Number 1 issue that I see facing the town right now is the information gathering, decision-making process and management by the current town board. And I think that flawed process is what's led to things like the annexation growth controversy, the police department closing decision, which was not all the options were considered before that decision was made. And then recently we had the sale of the BMX track property, which also the process was very flawed on that as well. Secondly, I think the town needs to work to stimulate development of the lots that are west of Hayes and the vacant commercial space. It pains me to no end to see the Wayside Inn vacant for 8 years. I don't understand that. The town has to figure out a way to get that open. The lots are build ready by the car wash. We need incentives to get people to build there, and we'll let them pay down their infrastructure, just like the incentives we offered for Safeway. And then finally, our streets right now are a huge bounce check for this town. We are spending no money maintaining them, and we're driving up a huge future repair bill. And some of them aren't that far from being back to dirt. So if you look on South 3rd Street, some of the older neighborhoods, every inch of asphalt is alligator. So the town spent 0 money in 2013 on streets before the flood. And prior to that, I think we spent $30,000 a year before that. You know, the town has got to be doing regular yearly maintenance, and we did that in the past, in the late 90s, early 2000s, with a budget that was just as lean, if not leaner, than what we have now. So we have to prioritize.
Thank you, Mr. Hyman. Mr. Jones.
I believe our first priority is the economy of the town. We've had a the taxes are going down, the repair costs of the water. We put in a bunch into the water system to get good water, a bunch into the sewer system, and we've put more now into the police system just to keep up with the standards that Berthoud needs for the police system. So in respect, our profits are going down and our expenses are going up, and again through steady growth, and as Jeff Hyman spoke, getting some buildings up, commercial buildings would really help in that, and get some creative juices going from the citizens to help with bringing in other resources of funding. And once we get this, then we can work on our roads. We can work on the other things that need to be worked on. And these two things will be done, I believe, through the community communication battle.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Foley?
All right. Kind of summarizing the top 3 issues that I feel are really pressing for this town. And it's going to boil down to leadership, finances, and marketing. We got into this mess with the financing and the marketing because of poor leadership. That needs to change. We've got to get the people in there that are going to drive better communication. I think oftentimes these ballot initiatives that we're about to vote on are because we didn't take the time to ensure, even though communication was out there for everyone to get, we didn't take the time to really think through our actions and vet out people's concerns prior to making a public issue. And I think we wouldn't have to be spending a lot of time and effort on these issues. The money is a concern, it has been. And a lot of that was because of prior leadership. Recently, this town has experienced bad publicity for years. I mean, those of you that have lived here for a while, do you remember when people could tell you from Berthoud because of the way you smell with the shower that you took? I've been there. You know, we went from that, and then we had to, once again, we're back in the issues, and we're back in with the police department and the conduct of officers. Again, that's a negative. And that takes away from why people want to move here. We can talk about growth and everything else, but if we don't give people a good reason and a good picture of what it really is, it's not going to happen. You can have the best laid out plan, but if you can't execute it, that's where the issues are going to be.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Mr. Shepherd? 2 minutes starts right now. Thank you.
As far as transparency in the government, every meeting is posted on the website. And all meetings are public. All you have to do is go to the website. Everything that has taken place in the past, in the last few years, is on the website and public agendas. As far as the police department, yeah, we're all hurt by that. But that was something that's been coming for the last probably 20 years, and our funding, lack of funding, and proper funding. The pressing issues that we have is not just to say that we, we want growth, and we hear about the smart growth and that type of thing. The smart growth is when infrastructure needs, traffic impact needs, all that stuff is paid for by developers. Market determines a lot of what kind of growth we get in this town. The town can structure that to a certain, to structure that kind of growth. What we've tried to do and are going to continue to do in this town is to make sure that as a town board that we have policies in place in which we do, that we have well-balanced growth. It's not just housing, but with housing comes retail. We're all talking about growth, but we're talking about it in different terms and how open that we are to growth inside this community, and that is broadcast to the outside communities and people outside of this town. And as far as the costs in this town, are held by the citizens of this community, of this town. The streets are paid for by the citizens of Berthoud. Wastewater fees are paid for by the citizens of Berthoud. Counties do not build wastewater treatment plants. Counties do not build water treatment plants. Municipalities build those. The citizens of this community hold the cards to this election.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Mr. Buckridge, 2 minutes, please.
I need to summarize all this. Everyone has a lot of very similar concerns, and to me, the main root of all of them is our fiscal health. Without fiscal health, you can't get the amenities back that we want. You can't get the services back that we want and need. So that is the thing that has to be focused on first and foremost. That gets me to economic development and growth planning. It's been discussed here. There are many different views of it, but it is necessary. We need to bring more businesses in, more opportunities, but it has to be done in a way that does not damage the lifestyle we come to know and love here in Berthoud. I think that's very doable, though. I'm going to add a new twist, and I'm going to call it vision. I think that it touches on some things that others have said. We have to get good information out there. There have been a lot of misconceptions. There have been people, I think, who have gotten emotionally tied to things without actually looking necessarily at all the facts. And that's what I mentioned earlier. Public participation by people like you is going to be key to all of this. Get the information. The board has much more detail presented to them. That doesn't mean it's not available to all of you as well. But the board uses that information at that detail to make its decisions. So I'm just going to add vision to the list that everyone else has put out here. And let's present a unified vision to the areas outside of Berthoud. We don't want it to change every 5 years. We want a consistent, long-term vision for what Berthoud can be.
Thank you, Mr. Buckridge. Thank you for answering that first question on candidates. Let me help you, sir. Okay, next person up, the first person up for the second question is going to be Thomas Jones. And the question is, what is your position regarding the ballot questions 241 and 242 regarding the Hayworth annexation, and should decisions on future annexations be left up to trustees, or should it be left up to a vote of the community?
First of all, the Howards actually came to the town to ask if they could be part of the town. From how I understand it, Red Howard, which is Dad, that was his wish in the town. He supports the town, came in every day, had coffee with the farmers, and he too, I believe, homesteaded the land, or I believe he homesteaded, is that correct? Oh, his grandparents did, okay. And they almost lost the land, and then they got it back. They had a battle. But anyway, to make a long story short, I do believe that, property rights, I like to see people with their property be able to do what they want to do. for the most part, if it's good for the town and if it's good for them. And that is what we've been doing. As far as the second one,
Was 242 was should decisions on future annexations be left up to the trustees or should it be left up to the vote of the community?
okay, future annexations. You know, I think, to make the long story short, the votes that we'll find out coming up will tell us what annexation is going to that land.
Mr. Jones, thank you very much. Mr. Foley, I will read this again.
Thank you.
You have 2 minutes to answer this question. What is your position regarding the ballot questions 241 and 242 regarding the Hayward annexation? Should decisions on future annexations be left up to trustees or should it be left up to the vote of the community?
Okay. My current position on both of these is I'm still gathering facts. And I'm not just going to jump on one side or the other because I can sympathize with each. One of the things that I can say is that I do like that sign that's out there in front of Hayes that says stick to the plan. Well, the plan is the GMA. The way this whole thing went down initially was that annexation is outside of the current plan. The only way that plan gets amended is to involve the community to vet out, does it make sense? One of the things that's still in my mind, we heard about what are reasons why to not adopt that plan, but I really want to know, why does it make total sense to adopt that plan? And I haven't gotten that answer yet. I hear, well, it's about pro-growth. Well, I want to hear a little bit more. Why does it make sense to go from 19 to 21? I want to vet these things out. In terms of whether it should be left to the voters or the trustees, I think the trustees have a job to do to follow the plan. And if the current plan that comes through happens to be this new 2014, which is a good plan, then that's the plan we're going to work with. And if we're going to have to move forward past this. We've got other things that are really going to face this town if we don't get some things moving past this stuff. Again, I attribute this back to a common piece. Had we started off this process of even looking at the annex in the first place, we probably wouldn't be in this position right now, where we're having to push back for the voters to do what should be our job.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Mr. Shepard, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah, would you please? I want to make sure I'm focused on the question.
What is your position regarding the ballot questions 241 and 242 regarding the Hayward annexation, and should decisions on future annexations be left up to the trustees or should it be left up to the vote of the community?
Thanks. The issue with 241, this comes down to private property rights. What is done is that went through the entire process. There's state statutes that guide all kinds of annexations, the annexation process. The Haywards came to the town and asked the town if we would consider their annexation request for the third time maybe. So the process was fulfilled, but it still comes down to private property rights. But as a town and as a community, you take a look at that and you see what kind of impacts, if any, it's going to have on the community. At this point in time, it's 80 acres of hayfield. So there's, at this point in time, there's not any impact. When something happens to develop or they ask to have something developed, that will come into the town, and for the town to work with the Haywards on how that, whatever that development is, to fit with the rest of the community and on that side of town. As far as the 242 referendum, that is a bad thing for this town. And it should be left up to the trustees. Otherwise, you have rules being made by, let me put it to you this way. All of a sudden, Berthoud becomes this club. So if you want to join this club, what you have to do is you have to go and ask the people if you can join the club. you're taking away personal property rights from the standpoint of that they can no longer just come to the town, the trustees make a decision on the town board makes a decision for the better of the town and what works best for that annexation. It could be a possibility of whether or not you accept it or not. Land uses are determined by planning and zoning and guided by state statute, and of course by the town itself. 242 closes the door, as we all talk about wanting to have future growth and stuff like that. Anybody that would come to the town and hopefully want to try to do an annexation would have to go through the process and then also a public vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Buckridge?
I'm going to start with 242 first. And I'm going to take a little bit higher altitude look at this. To me, I don't like the precedent that it sets. Not that the people don't have a right to disagree and even to bring a referendum forward. My concern is what I talked about earlier in that vision. And if the board makes a decision and the town overturns it, what kind of a face does that give to future developers or people who want to come here? What's the point of going to the board if the citizens can just overturn it? And if anyone wants to be annexed in the future with 242, I see it being a big PR battle. The people for and against would have a big PR campaign, deal on emotions. The town would have to pay for the election. The trustees, their job is to make these decisions with public input and with all the information, and it needs to stay that way. 241, I don't like it at a high level for a lot of the same reasons. The board has made a decision. A lot of people don't like it, and I understand that. There are some aspects of it I have questions about as well. But what it really comes down to at the lower level on 241, again, it's been mentioned, personal property rights.
I'm not going to pretend to know everything about it. I'm still getting to know this issue as time is going on. When you look at it now, I think Mr. Shepherd said, right now it's 80 acres of farm field. What Chris has brought up as well is its division. We know now what it is, what can it be, and what is it going to be in the future, and what kind of economic impact can that have on us now that it is our job to take care of the roads. It's no longer a county issue, it's a local issue. So those become things. It's a slippery slope because it's personal property rights, but then we get into where it's at in the future and where have we set ourselves up for our plan. We have drawn the map, we have the way to do it, and it's our job as a board of trustees to follow the map that everybody agreed on. And if we need to go outside that map, then you enter the slippery slope of having referendums for overturning these and having these annexations being voted on. That's a slippery slope because it does become a popularity contest. It becomes, who do we want, who do we not want? So now, the job of the town is to vote on the board of trustees. The long and the short of it is that this is your voice, this is your option. Anybody out there can get the signatures required, they can be up here, they can run for the board. You become the voice of the town. It is the town's job to choose their voice. And ultimately, this will be your voice moving forward for the next 4 years. That's how democracy works. And I understand with referendums, we can get things on ballots and we can vote on it as well. So there are checks and balances built into this, but it's a very slippery slope. You do not want to have every annexation go to the vote of the town because nothing good can come out of that in the long run. People are competitive by nature. That's just the way it is, and it will become even more competitive as time goes on, and larger dollars are at stake.
Thank you, Mr. Bridgman. Ms. Baker?
So 242 and 241, both of these petitions together, I feel like are a single report policy misunderstanding. It's really, you take a step back and look at it, and you can see a slew of misinformation about annexation, and it becomes a question of did the town board make the best decision for the community at large, and what did they do so? The power thing, just following the democratic procedure, so you have an elected official, their role is to represent the community at large, to study the issues at hand, and the consequences of them, and to actively listen to the community input, and to make the best decision for the community as a whole, overall resulting in a collaborative community decision. So in regards to the Holland annexation, yes, there was a slew of citizen input saying don't annex this, but in terms of for them to annex it as an empty parcel, what that meant for the community was that any revenue, so any structure that came from that property, one house or two houses, that revenue would come into town. That in joint effort with the preferred land use plan, which keeps it at one house per 2 acres, keeps the land character very similar to what it is, and keeps the land use very similar to what it is, while leaving that revenue to come into town. In terms of 241, actually in terms of, 241, with the annexation beyond the 2012 GMA boundary, that one, like I said, it's very similar to public policy misunderstanding, and really what concerns me most about it is that it opens the door for property that has not been studied collaboratively, that will to be annexed, that will affect us for a long time, long-term consequences, and will affect all of us as a whole.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Henning?
Okay, on the Hayworth annexation, you know, I've sat through many meetings and read many things in the newspaper, and I continually hear this whole bit about misinformation about that process. So my first stance on the Hayworth thing is tell us what the real information is then. If everyone is saying that the town is misinformed and certain people don't know what they're talking about, then set the record straight, put it in print, tell us how the process went, and then let us work that. So, you know, let's get rid of this whole misinformation thing. Let's start talking the way it should be. The same goes for 242. So my stance on 241 is, you know, we have a plan. We had people work on the GMA with a consultant back in 2007 to build a very well thought out land use plan called the growth management area. And we have a GMA, we work towards the GMA, and I'm sorry, the Hayworth property is not inside that GMA. And, you know, the town spoke very vocally at the town meetings that said, you know, we don't believe that it should be annexed. And the town board completely ignored that and did the annexation anyway. So that's my stance on the Hayworth property. On the ballot initiative about annexing other towns, other properties into the town without a public vote. Actually, I thought that the initiative was worded differently, and I thought the initiative basically said that if the town property was not within the GMA, then you had to have a public vote. So let's make sure we get all the correct information on that too, and make sure that everyone understands what that ballot initiative is. So the ballot initiative is, if it's not in the GMA, then it needs to be voted on by the public. So, and I am for that. I think that we, again, put all this time in our planners.
Thank you, Mr. Henning. Mr. Conner?
Thanks. So let's be really clear here. 242 is a vote on an annexation outside of the 2012 growth area that includes 24,000 unannexed, or 24,000 acres total. The town right now is only about 1,200 acres, and there's over 7,000 acres annexed and zoned for development. So 242 does nothing to change any of that. It allows that 24,000 acres to be annexed without any public vote whatsoever. Correct. So right now there's this website put up by the National Association of Realtors, and I guess on behalf of some people in this community, and it does not say that. It says that all annexations will have to be voted on, and that's factually, totally, 100% incorrect. So what 242 will do is it will put an end. We fought this battle in 2007, and unfortunately the Hallworths did not win, but the consensus was that that property, the whole beauty of the 2007 land use plan was urban density inside the new highway, rural density, and agricultural preservation outside. And we left a strip along the new highway so we could capture the commercial intersection at 56 and 287, which is a cash register. The town needs a shopping center at that location. We went far enough to capture that, and then we stopped and we left it. And if you go west of 19, you get into a lot of county lots that will be surrounded by these little hopscotch town subdivisions. So the Hallworth annexation, I only have 30 seconds, but the Hallworth annexation, the problem started at a meeting of the board in October 2012, when the property wasn't eligible. The agenda item was county referrals. And at that meeting, the board and the staff said, we'd like to annex you. You should abandon your county plan. And that was not a meeting that anybody knew happened, and that was a major change in town policy. There was no public input at that time. And then ever since that, they did what they needed to do to make the annexation happen.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Okay, next question. Sir? Third question, first person up. Get a drink of water, guys. Question number 3. What is your position on the current board's decision to negotiate with the sheriff's office for the town's public safety services?
I believe pretty strongly that closing our police department and sending $1.8 million to Fort Collins is not a good idea. I feel like the town board got advice from the one party, advice and analysis from the one party that was selling them the contract for the new services. I think that there was some input at the public meeting that mentioned options. It would have been easy for the town board to delay that, get some more information, set up a citizen advisory committee that Dana suggested to get input from professionals. We've been under control of the sheriff since whenever, September. I don't think another month before making such a drastic decision to close our police department would have hurt anything. And I definitely think that regardless of how short we are on funds, I think it's much better to take the $1.8 million based on what I know today, take that money, spend it in rebuilding our police department, rather than spending it on a lease with the sheriff, and at the end of 2 years, you have nothing. You have no equipment, you have no cars, you have no officers. I think that's a mistake. We've lost the school resource officer, which has a lot of knowledge of the kids in all levels of our schools. All of our police officers are losing their jobs, and they're not eligible for rehire in Berthoud. So I think that the town board needs to look at other options that they did.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Mr. Jones?
This is a tough one. Essentially, to get a police sheriff back in town, it takes 4 to 6 months. We didn't have that time. We had an option. We could have had an option just to walk away and let the county deal with the whole thing for the next few years, but we wouldn't have had someone in town every day. And I think the people of Berthoud wanted someone in town every day. And to go through the right steps, we didn't have time really to do that. So I believe we did the right thing by getting the county in here, letting them run the town for a while as far as keeping it safe. Just to let you know, there's Centennial does it, Wellington, that's a couple of them in Colorado. So it's not something that's out of line to do. But if Berthoud wants the police department back bad enough, I know through help through there's a lot of grants that we can get that for startup police forces. That'll help us get that process going.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Foley?
Repeat the question for me.
What is your position on the current board's decision to negotiate with the sheriff's office for the town's public safety services?
My current position is they pulled the trigger too soon. No pun intended. I have responded, and I've been a member of a fire district that has had county response. Niwot is a perfect example. They have a Boulder County substation in Niwot. Lyons, Colorado has a Boulder County substation there as well. There were so many more options on the table, and we didn't have to turn it all over to the county. Essentially, you could have just said, leave it to the county, and they would be getting the same response that the Haworths are getting right now. We all would be getting that, a county response. The county has some primary functions to take care of the courthouse and the jail. Patrol is secondary to those. It is a benefit to the county, and that's the one question. What is in it for the county? Why has the county been asking for this for so many years and multiple times? It's in it because then they're able to move some resources to other areas and allocate and use Berthoud funds to help support those areas. I am for getting our police force back by the end of that contract. The current town signed a measure and signed this away without having a plan to get out of it. You just signed it and went that way. That is not the way to run business. You've got to know what your exit strategy is. And you can't just say, well, there might be some grants. Who's going to write it? How are we going to get these funds? What are we going to do if we can't? And have that stuff lined out, vetted out, and let the community know before you make an issue like that.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Trustee Shepherd?
Once again, all meetings are on the website of the town of Berthoud. All agendas are also posted there, and minutes of past meetings have been there for about the last 10 years. Anyways, so as we're moving forward, I'm also committed to bringing back our Berthoud Police Department. This year, we started a process inside in Town Hall, which is a 5-year budgeting plan. This is the first time this has happened since I've been on the board in any kind of recent memory. With going to Larimer County Sheriff's Department, our first and foremost priority on the town board is public health and public safety. The reasons that we went to where we went at that time is that after internal reviews and stuff like that on what we needed to have done with our police department, it was deemed that the best time was now to get together with Larimer County Sheriffs for the 2 years on a 2-year contract. In the midst of that, start with the process of being able to budget to restart the police department. I'm all for having our own police department again. This is sort of a sad thing to have happen, but it did. We are in the hands of Larimer County Sheriff's Office. We did our vetting and also our budgeting. And what we have also done is analyze the budget numbers, and all of you are cordially invited to the budget process, which this year we started in August. It is a fun time for all, and it's just fabulous. Anyways, to start it off over right away, we were looking at least 9 to 10 months to start it again, and that was a process of going out and hiring a police chief. There was monies to be expended that way. All that money would have come out of our general fund. So as general fund figures go and municipality finances go, there's a whole lot of fun to be had by looking at those numbers. But I am also committed, and then hopefully in 2 years we will have saved back enough money that we can start our police department again. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Number 2. Mr. Buckard.
I would like to start by saying that I too would like Berthoud to get its police department back, and that's something we should strive for in the future. Having said that, I started attending the board meetings when I was thinking of running about the time all this discussion was going on. I saw the presentation that was done by the Larimer County Sheriff's Department, and at those presentations they went into great detail about the current state of the police department, what they would do, what they would be willing to do, what they were offering. And time again said, Berthoud, whatever you decide you want to do, we will be here to support you. I don't understand the statement that was made earlier about Berthoud Police not being eligible for rehire. I'll have to look into some details of that, because part of the presentation was that the current Berthoud Police staff would actually have a fast track to being hired by the Larimer County Sheriffs for support of Berthoud. I would like to reiterate one thing that was said about the number one responsibility of the town board. That is the safety of the people of Berthoud. The time it would have taken, according to these presentations, to have gotten the Berthoud Police Department back up to speed would have been too long. The Larimer County Sheriff's Department is very professional, very well trained, very organized, and they care about this community, they care about everyone in Larimer County. And based on that one thing alone, the town made the right decision. This is not a game playing with public safety. Let me end by saying, in the future, I want Berthoud to have its own police department back. But this decision was the right decision for the safety of everyone here.
Thank you, Mr. Buckridge. Mr. Bridgman.
All right. Well, let me share some with everybody else, but I also wish Berthoud still had a police department, and it should be one of our number one priorities is to get a police department back to the town. Now, as far as the negotiations go, is getting the sheriff's department in. Sheriff Justice Smith did a great job. He did what he was supposed to do. The sheriff's department was selling a service. Don't mistake that. That was what the job was. They were selling a service. We needed the goods. They were selling them. That's what it was. The options that were presented were sold to you by the people that were selling you the service. I was a salesman for a long time. I know how to do that. There are other options out there, and I know we looked at other options. The one concern is, even though we build a police department back again and say we're on a 5-year plan, we're on a 10-year plan, the concern is we let our police department get to this point where it was beyond repair. We had to ditch the department and contract out. What's to say that we don't come up with a 5-year plan and in 10 years we're in the same situation again? I think the answer is doing the research, doing the budgets. Dick Shepherd talked about the budget planning process for 5 years, but we need to have that plan when we make the decision. I understand that this came across suddenly. The controversy is boiling. We need to make a decision, but the problem is that we had a defined period of time when this led up to. The department didn't fall apart overnight. This came along over a period of years. So it is our job as a town and our job as a town board to start making these plans for when the inevitable happens. And if you see that coming, then that plan needs to be made. What do we do if? And there was no contingency plan on this. It was, oh no, what do we do now? And now we've got to rebuild the department. That takes time, and also is going to take a lot more money because we do have to contract out in the interim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridgman. Ms. Baker?
Here's a question.
You bet. What is your position on the current board's decision to negotiate with the sheriff's office for the town's public safety services?
Sort of the issue as a whole, I really feel that it's a short-term solution for long-term problems. And it's that we don't have, at the time, we don't have enough tax revenue to keep the police force going. I feel it's very important for Berthoud to keep its ability to remain independent. And very similar to what Chris Bucker said, safety is a top priority, and it should be for everybody in this community. A local police force, would provide I feel like would be higher quality, and it'd be more responsive because it'd be closer to know community as a whole more. But really, in terms of us to go to the sheriff, and like I said, it's a short-term solution to a long-term problem, is that we need more of a tax base to be able to support that. As I feel like that's something the town board and the community as a whole should work towards, find a solution towards that. And obviously with public transparency and accountability as well, so we don't have recurring issues such as what I've heard in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Manning?
Well, to answer the direct question, I think that the town made a very quick decision without vetting out all its possible alternatives. But really, ask yourselves, everyone here, ask yourselves how we got in this situation. If there wasn't some misconduct by a police officer back in September, would we still have the same police force that we have now? Would it still be as under-equipped and underfunded as it is now? So I think it's very ironic that people sit here and say that as a town board person, our number one priority is public safety. If that's the case, how did we get into this situation? Honestly, ask yourself that question. And now all of a sudden we are in this situation You know, so when we peel back the onion layers here a little bit, and we find out from this report from the Larimer County Sheriff's Department how bad things are. Where was the oversight? Where was the management and responsibility of actually watching over your public servants in this town? You know, so, well, all of a sudden we are forced with having to make a quick decision. But I think that that decision was made too hasty. I think we're going to spend $1.8 million just to the Larimer County without being able to, you know, in our tough economic situation, where are we going to get the money in the next year to start working on building a police force? If we are already paying that $1.8 million out to them. You know, so ask yourselves as voters again, how did we get in this situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henning. We asked if there were any questions from the audience, and just to have those sent in so we could review those. So we asked the candidates here. There were no questions written down.
Really?
So, but I will encourage that if there are candidates here you'd like to speak with, take this opportunity to talk with them. Get to know them. Get to know how they feel about your community so that when you make that decision on April 1st, it's a very educated and well thought out decision. Candidates, I'd like to thank you very much for your time and your effort and your answers. They were all very, very well done.
We've got a few minutes if anybody does have any.
We're not going to do it from the audience like that, Dana. It's because we can't control what the student said, and then also we get off track.
I think we all have email addresses, or most of us do on our flyers as well, or feel free to email questions.
Yes, please.
A lot of us are on Facebook as well.
One quick note, I'd like to recognize, because people in this community do care, we've got Mayor Gregg here, Trustee White here, Trustee Dowker, Mike Hart is here, and again, thank you very, very much for attending tonight. We really appreciate this very, very much.